and thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Formscan on Irish Racing. I'm back after a few days away at Ascot. If anyone's missing Vincent, we'll be back again on Monday. But I'm back to review day 5 with Tanya Stevenson again. Tanya, I suppose it's been a great week so far, a long week going to the last day. Just maybe reflect backwards a small bit before we look at day 5. What's kind of been your highlights of the week? I haven't been speaking to you now since Monday, so we haven't spoken about any of the racing yet.
Sir Mark Prescott getting a winner was lovely. Pledge Allegiance, it's lovely to see. He could obviously have had another one by now. Billy Loughnane getting a winner. But every race has had a fantastic story behind it, and probably the best race of the week for me would be the Gold Cup. As it should be. It was an absolute epic, and it was lovely to see Kyprios regain his crown. And I'm sure this final day will produce some more wonderful stories.
Yeah, for sure. That Gold Cup was one for the ages, a real kind of ding-dong battle all the way down the straight. But I suppose we'll drive straight into day 5, and we've plenty to talk about on the last day of Royal Ascot. And the first race we'll have a quick look at is the Chesham Stakes, a listed contest for the 2-year-olds over the 7 furlongs. Look, the way the 2-year-olds have been going, 2-year-old races so far this week, you might want to be looking away from the favourite, but I was actually really impressed by this Bedtime Story when she won her maiden at Leopardstown. She beat a more fancied stablemate, Giselle, 2 kind of regally bred fillies. Of course, Bedtime Story by Frankel out of Mecca's Angel doesn't get a whole pile better than that. Aidan O'Brien hasn't had a whole pile of luck with these 2-year-olds, but maybe over these 7 furlongs is where his ones might excel. What was your view on this one, Tanya? Are you looking for the favourite or away from there?
I was really like you. I was really impressed with Bedtime Story. We're watching the race, and I urge people to watch these 2-year-olds. Bedtime Story, despite her greenness, I think she hung a little bit coming around the bend at Leopardstown, and it was a phenomenal run in the fact that she didn't work out what she had to do until the last few strides. That's what you expect from 2-year-olds. Grant you that. Aidan has specialised in this race. I think he's won it 6 times. You said we stray away from the favourite, maybe. This is probably one of the best favourite records, this 2-year-old race. I think it's like 20 out of 47 have won. So that kind of concentrates the mind. Age of Gold for Charlie Appleby won nicely at Yarmouth. Really did win nicely at Yarmouth, albeit he's got to give a little bit of weight, obviously, to Bedtime Story. He's cost a lot of money. He's another one that is out of Frankel. And the third in that race, which was Nasa Cemento, I thought ran really well, only beaten 3 lengths in the Coventry. I don't really like giving out places because they're spread right across the track. So that form's worked out well. Now, Pental Bay, I'd worry about the ground with Pental Bay. That was a really eye-catching effort for George Bowie. Was owned by Ed Ware. He's sold it since. We've seen that occurrence a couple of times, or quite a few times at Royal Ascot this week. They've been these good horses have been picked up. Well, Pental Bay's another one, but the ground, that Leicester, the way that Pental Bay picked up was on softer ground. And then I wouldn't ignore, if you want your outsider, I wouldn't ignore Lazy Griff for a place. Led all but the line at Doncaster, just unlucky to come up, write this horse in the notebooks, come up against Wolf of Badenoch, who, I mean, I don't know how Jamie got that across the line because it was like a crab. It ran across the line sideways. It was so green, but that's one for the notebooks. Lazy Griff was very professional and might be the pace angle. Step back it away, though, and be sensible. I don't know whether you like Bedtime Story as your selection. Bedtime Story for me for a 7th win for Aidan in this race. She was so green and she just won it so easily.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and that was a really strong maiden as well. I think at Leopardstown they really fancied Giselle that day, and maybe she was a little bit hampered in running, but I thought this Bedtime Story, she should improve for it again, like all of Aidan's do. Kind of limited four lines to go on here, I suppose. Plenty of maidens and a few unraced horses. 2-year-olds as well, but I think Bedtime Story is definitely the standout on the form. If I was going to pick maybe a small each way selection, it's kind of hard not to be drawn to the Carl Burke 2-year-olds. This week is 2 2-year-old winners already on the board, and this Mota Wedge, I think is how you pronounce it. He was kind of made a nice impression when second to Catalay's in Hamilton first time out. Look, I suppose Catalay's disappointed in the Coventry earlier on in the week. But I think there's probably a good chance that Hardwicke's 2-year-old will step up on that run. And his 2-year-olds are flying so far. So if I was going to take an each way, it would be him at 16 to 1. But I think Bedtime Story is definitely the standout in the first on the Saturday. But we'll go on to the 305, the Hardwicke Stakes, and another Aidan O'Brien, hot enough favourite here, Continuous. I'm a massive fan of this horse, and I think conditions could be just perfect for him as well at Ascot. Probably his best performance last year might have been at York in that great voltager, over similar trip, similar ground. I think 6 to 4. I think 2 to 1 best price with Boyle Sports doesn't look a bad price about him at all. Are you looking to take him on, Tanya? Are we both in Ballydoyle for the first 2 races?
I think we're both in Ballydoyle, and I think at this point it's still a huge price. It's silly to say that, but when you see who Continuous has beaten and who Continuous went on to run against, I thought it was a little bit unlucky not to get closer in the Arc, but then the Arc was not. An Arc is not running Continuous's style. He's a real powerful stayer, so he's not going to do anything quickly, but he's going to do things in a really strong stride. He's already met Middle Earth, he's already met Desert Hero, and he has beaten a pair of them. So it's then you look lower down the list. Isla Jura is really, really exciting. And I suppose they're thinking they couldn't really have anywhere else to go. This horse is improving so much. They went to Goodwood, which I feel this was seeking a 4-timer and going up in class, I feel was their only opportunity to go somewhere, and they didn't. And despite the track, which is cambered and they run downhill, Isla Jura ran really well in the closing stages and won and was going away. Ascot will be Isla Jura's course. You just think that, are we ready yet for Group 2? If we are, it's going to be really exciting. But you're coming up against a Group 1 horse, or a Group 1 plus horse in Continuous, who's continually proves it again and again and again. But it's nothing to say that he could get into second. Or maybe, I mean, bless them, George Scott and Callum Shepherd are knocking on. They haven't had an Ascot winner, let alone a Royal Ascot winner. It's been really, really cruel fortune to them. Maybe this will be it. I don't know. But it'll certainly be value each way. But Continuous as the price you're saying, you think if he wins the first with Bedtime Story, then that's another thought process that'll shorten Continuous because of that as well. But he's just class. He is just class, stands out in this.
He is brilliant, and I agree with you there. I thought he could have been even closer in the Arc. I think I read his stable toward Aidan earlier in the week, and they thought maybe they should have ridden him a bit more prominently. One slight worry for him is not having a run coming into this, but I saw him galloping at the Curragh on Guinea's Day, and in that same stable tour, he said he had gone for another gallop as well. So you'd be hoping he's going to be fit enough for this, and I think he might be a class above here. Like you said, he is a Group 1 horse here in Group 2 company, but maybe Isle of Jura, one for a sneaky forecast in the Hardwicke Stakes. But we'll go on to the 345, the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes. I suppose the feature race of the day, Group 1 over 6 furlongs. Millstream and Kinross joint favourites at around 4 to 1, 9 to 2, depending where you shop. Shartash around 11 to 2, 6 to 1. Tanya, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm glad you threw it to me. My, oh my, what a tricky contest this is. There's so much interwoven form. They've all met, various horses have met one another in their career paths, and they have beaten one another in their career paths. I fully understand why Millstream's at the top of the market. Millstream won a really exciting 1895 Duke of York Stakes. Really, really exciting. Fell across the line with should have been a ring. Art Power was in the race. They were all in their Cardem, who never showed up, but that's Cardem. He won the race last year. He's won this race last year, so we'll talk about him in a minute. And Kinross is class. But Kinross probably is a 6 3/4 furlong horse, definitely a 7 furlong horse. We know that. 7 wins from 10 runs over the 7 furlongs. Not so good over 6 furlongs, 1 from 6, but runs in Group 1s for fun. The problem is the ground with Kinross and trying to catch these flying horses, because we know Art Power will fly. His friend Art Power will fly out in front. Washington Heights will fly out. That was another one in the 1895 Duke of York Stakes. I thought that ran an absolute cracker, wandering all around the place, not because it was getting tired, but it had no friends to align itself to. Then you got the Fittree Hay horses. which no doubt you've caught some traction in there, Mitbahi. You'd know more than me literally how fast that race was run, because Jamie rode that really, really cold and had come from absolute nowhere to pick up Art Power and friends. And then we have Shartash. Interesting horse, Shartash. You know more than me, because obviously it was with Johnny Murter at 2, was a Group 1 class. I've only seen it at Thirsk, and then subsequently come out again and won over 7 furlongs at Haydock. Dropping down, it's interesting by Archie Watson, sort of declaring this. Wathnam's had tremendous week, but once you're stepping up to Group 1 company again, having come off kind of handicaps, the selection for me is going to be, outside of all of those, Should Have Been a Ring. The most inconsistent of a lot of these, but a very tidy one in, got the crucial 7 furlong form, but miles better at 6. And I feel was a little bit unlucky with Tiber Flow falling behind it in that York race. And because there's going to be so many different strands with Cardem and Mitbahi running cold, and Art Power's going to fly with Washington, I'm going to go with a horse that's just be sat in behind. Sean Levy can do no wrong this week either. So I'm going with Should Have Been a Ring.
Yeah, Sean Levy flying form, but you mentioned Shartash there. He was the one who I was drawn to be honest. Like you said, very interesting stepping back to the 6 furlongs for the first time for the new yard. I suppose, look, he was a really good 2-year-old for Johnny Murta. He won the Railway Stakes over this trip, beating Blackbeard. Might have been his best performance at 2. Third in the National Stakes as well. Form just petered off then as a 3-year-old, but Archie Watson got him in his 4-year-old campaign. They gelded him, and he seems to have improved. Maybe he was just a bit coldish last year. I'm not too sure. But one worry I had for Shartash was his draw. His draw and stall too, like all the ones you mentioned there, the possible pace angles. There seems to be a lot of pace out wider in the wider stalls, which was a little bit of a worry. Shartash can break fast, but he will want to lead. I was maybe hoping Swing Along could help him. He's drawn 3 alongside Shartash there. He likes to jump out and go, so hopefully that'll be a help for him. But Shartash is the one I'm drawn to. Like you said, Watnan, they're having a massive week so far. First time in those silks. I'm hoping he can keep the ball going. I think 6-1, 11-2, he's around there. So I thought he might be an each way bet in here. Hopefully getting back up to that 2-year-old form, because he was a really, really good 2-year-old. Just disappointing last year, but he looks to kind of be getting back into the swing of things at 4. So hoping for another nice one for Watnan Racing. But we'll go on, I suppose, on the topic of Watnan, onto the Jersey. And Hatim, a fascinating runner in here, meets his old rival, River Tiber. 2nd and 3rd from the Irish Guineas, and that form looks pretty strong now after seeing the St. James's Palace earlier on in the week. River Tiber gets the £3 from Hatim here, and the market seemed to favour him. He's 13-8, Hatim 3-1. Tanya, do you think the market has this one right? I suppose getting the weight, he's got just over a length to find. River Tiber dropping back to 7 furlongs. There probably is plenty in his favour here.
Yes, I'm a massive Hatim fan, so I'd be going with Hatim, but probably not using common sense, because in the Coventry, River Tiber beat Hatim into 5th by, I think, about 3 lengths. Since then, obviously, Hatim ran on unfavourable soft ground, and then we saw him this year beating Ebin Shadid in the Craven Stakes. That was really, really easy and caught everyone's eye going into the 2000 Guineas. And then he just doesn't leave anything behind. He will give everything. And then coming home over the mile, there's just vapours. 7 furlong might suit him a little. Will definitely suit him a little bit better. 3rd in the 2000, you've already mentioned, he was 2nd to Rosallion, his stable companion. He could have run in the St. James's Palace. It's common sense that he's come here. It is a step down in grade for the pair of them, River Tiber and indeed Hatam. I'm going to stick with Hatam. He's just because he just gives grit and determination, and he won't give it away easy. I know he's got to give £3. I tell you who I'm curious about, and that is Sir Michael Stout running this Never So Brave. He won so easily at Thirsk. This is obviously a different level. Appreciate that. So easy at Thirsk. Then another horse that went to a track that ought not to have suited, i.e. Chester, the forever twist and turn bends at Chester, but he travelled so well again, and it was just a case of popping him through a little bit of a gap, and off he went. how good is, or how much more of improvement he's got. We haven't seen the ceiling of his improvement, and Saffie Osborne has got some great strike rate with Sir Michael Stoute. She gets a mount on Never So Brave. This could be a potential winner for her, certainly a potential place, because we cannot weigh up the improvement to come. Hatima win for me, and then Never So Brave in there for a places.
Nice each way selection there, as well as Hatim. Look, I'm probably slightly, like you said, it's kind of hard to split the first two. River Tiber, I'm probably slightly siding with him, just because, you know, I think the record of Aidan's 3-year-olds going into the Guineas on their first run is not very good. So you'd imagine he's going to improve an awful lot for that. I think he might have had a little bit of a setback, which is why he didn't get out earlier in the year. He's only got about a length to find with Hatim getting the £3. I think stepping back in trip isn't going to do him any harm either. I'm probably just going to marginally side with River Tiber, but this is a kind of a tricky race. If I was going to pick an each race selection myself, I think Task Force, if you can forgive him for that run in the Newmarket 2000 Guineas, like on 2-year-old form with River Tiber, he's actually ahead of him. He was second to Van Dijk in the Middle Park Stakes, I think. And River Tiber was third that day. So look, he had a wind up, I think, over the winter. That was his first run in the Guineas. Maybe he just needed to run the yards in flying form this week. Rafe Beckett, Ross Owen on board, I think 10-1. If there was going to be one to follow the two main market protagonists home, I'd probably pick it to be Task Force, regally bred, out of special duty by Frankel. If you can forgive him for Newmarket, I think 10-1 doesn't look a bad price without him at all. But those are the kind of main feature races of the day, and we'll just give kind of a glance at the last 3 handicaps on the day as well. Tanya, do you want to go through whatever you have here first?
Yeah, I got no opinion really in the 540, so sorry everyone about that. We obviously, though, have a much more important race in the Wokingham, one of my favourite races of the week. It's just lovely to pick through the form. I think Jack Doughty will have a tremendous ride on Chipstead in that contest. He claims a crucial £5 off the horse, and the claim then makes the horse very, very interesting in the scheme of things. And he ran brilliantly. The horse, Epsom in the dash. There was loads of unlucky stories, of which he was one of them, and he was only beaten 3 lengths, so that form has worked out well. He was a previous winner of a Portland, but he obviously got disqualified for interference in the closing stages. But the selection in the race, the selection is Rumstar. Johnny Portman's Rumstar, 12 months ago, was fifth in the Commonwealth Cup. And that's the kind of form you're bringing in, albeit, a massive 80-1, only beaten 3 lengths by Shaquille. Then out of that, went to the Stewards Cup, an unseated rider, which wasn't great, out of the stalls. But you could see that Johnny Portman thought that he had immense ability, and he went to the Sprint Cup then and raced too freely on the far side, and all the gas ran out because he was just so keen. This season, I can imagine he was pulling his hair out. His first race at Bath, he came out. Heavy ground wasn't him. His ground is his ground is good to firm. Good to firm. That's what he needs. He ran on heavy at Bath. He came last of 11, and you'd have been going, oh my goodness, what's happened here? But then when you look at the other 10 runners in the race and see what they've done subsequently, yeah, you're kind of having a big smile on your face. And then last time out, to really enjoy things, was the fact that he came second to Lethal Levi, giving Lethal Levi something like £10 and only got beaten a length. He comes into this race with Johnny Portman having 2 tempting, a star of his stable this year, winning 4 out of 5 at big meetings as well. So the trainer's in form, and he's got a lovely draw, I think, in stall 25. So I go Rumstar in the Wokingham, and then in the Queen Alexander, I think the final race of the meeting, big smiles on our faces. One day I'd love them to put hurdles around for this race. Oh dear, bit rude. But this race, I think, is obviously a rerun of 2023, where you had Dawn Rising winning it. But my selection will have to be the unlucky horse of 2023, which was Run for Oscar. If you watch the race again, or just don't watch it and listen to the commentary, you could almost feel the frustration or the desperation to try and find a way through. There was no way through. Hopefully we won't get a rerun of that in 2024, and Run for Oscar will get better luck. So we can see, rather than debating whether he'd have won or not, we can actually see him and Dawn Rising. I appreciate there's lots of other good runners in the race. It's going to be a great spectacle. But my 2 out of the last 3 races would be Rumstar and Run for Oscar.
I found this Queen Alexandra really hard to work out, to be honest. If I was kind of thinking along the same lines of you, if I was forced to back something, it would be Run for Oscar, but I think there's loads of question marks about plenty in here. But Dawn Rising, good winner of it last year. Like you said, the Run for Oscar was the unlucky story, and Dawn Rising's run so far this season would hardly fill you with confidence. Postello in there for Emmett Mullins. Look, Emmett Mullins, Paul Byrne having a runner, James Doyle being booked, it's definitely eye-catching. Plenty more Queenstown, like the runs behind Kyprios, I suppose, probably pick of the form. Whether you can take that too literally then I suppose is the question, and will he stay as well? But yeah, you'd have to keep going back to Run for Oscar. I agree with you there. Charles Byrne seems to have lined them out for this. Maxime Guillon booked 5-1, probably doesn't look a bad price about him at all. Considering how unlucky he was in it last year. A couple for me in the handicaps. I think in the 505, what did I have in here? I had Richard Fahey and Oisin Orr, Strike Red. Just going back to his win at the Curragh last July, I thought the form of that is actually quite strong. He beat a filly who I really like, Aussie Girl. She was rated, I think, 87 that day. She went off later in the season to win off a mark of 97. I thought that was a really strong one, Strike Red at the Curragh. There was a few winners in behind him that day as well. First run, Newcastle, maybe put a line through that. I thought he's run at Epsom last time, though. Was encouraging. He's a prolific winner over this trip. 7-time winner, I think, over the 6 furlongs. 16-1. You might get it better. It's bigger in some places. I think he's probably a decent each way bet in that one. In the 540, then, similar to you, I didn't have any really strong selections. One who maybe stood out slightly, Approval. I think 7 or 8-1. Stepping into handicap company for the first time. I was just quite taken watching back his win in Windsor last time. He was stepping up to this trip for the first time there, and he showed a really good attitude to gallop away from the field. Maybe the Haggis yard haven't been totally firing this week at Ascot, but hopefully he might give them a first winner on the board. And I think 8-1 again, each way doesn't look terrible value in that one. But Tanya, thanks very much for all your analysis of all the races. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it very much. But before you go, I'll ask you for a nap of the day on the final day of Royal Ascot.
Well, I think we'll have to go for the easiest race. Let's go for the Wokingham. And I'll go for Rumstar. I just really love the fact that this is a Group 1 performer. And sometimes, well, we know already the Ascot races, whether it be handicap or otherwise, you need to be a group performer. And Rumstar's already been there, and only 4 as well. And has come, I'm hoping he's being brought to the peak to run a nice big race from a great draw. Just, I think the 5th in a Commonwealth Cup can equate nicely to a big run in a Wokingham. And so we'll see how he goes.
Very nice nap in the Wokingham. Brave selection. I'm probably a little bit less brave. I think Continuous. Look, 2-1 with Boyle Sports Yields this morning. We're recording on Friday morning. So, look, if he's that price in the day, I think that looks big. He might be just a step above this field. And I'm hoping he can go on to maybe bigger and better things later on in his 4-year-old campaign. But we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much again, Tanya, for all your input. And I hope everyone enjoyed the whole week of Ascot previews. We'll be back on Monday to kind of break down the week, I suppose, with Johnny Ward and Vincent Finnegan, Royal Ascot, as well as any other news. So if you like the channel, make sure and like and subscribe.